What's up, everyone? In my last video, I talked about how some of us are already feeling the burnout and it's only just the new year. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how certain cultural beliefs and upbringing, specifically within Asian American culture, can add to that burnout. Now, I want to offer a disclaimer here because when I say Asian, that is a really broad term. There are 24 different countries, 50 plus ethnic groups, hundreds of languages, different histories, spiritual practices, generational differences, familial differences. And so my experience as a 1.5 Taiwanese American immigrant is going to be really different than someone who is fourth generation Chinese American, even though we both identify ethnically as Chinese, right? So no one's experience is going to be the same, but what I want to highlight are the similar cultural beliefs, specifically influenced by Confucian ideologies, that impact the way we think, the way we grew up, certain patterns. The goal is to help us be more aware and conscious of how culture and our environment really shapes us and ultimately what we believe, our thoughts, and our mental health. The first thing I want to highlight is that Asian culture is a collectivistic culture versus American culture that is individualistic. What that means is that we operate in relationship to our group. What we do reflects back on our family, our communities, on the collective, right? So there is a lot of emphasis on keeping harmony within the group, a lot of peacekeeping, and preserving the image for fear that it can dishonor the family. That leads to the second point where Asian culture is shame and honor based, right? What that means is there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the image that you portray. Everything we do is filtered through the lens of, is this going to make me look bad? Is this going to make my family or my community look bad? What we do is a reflection of the group that we come from. And so we have to be very conscientious about how we present ourselves, how we portray ourselves, the things that we say, the things that we do. Oftentimes, this image is kept up by these extrinsic rewards, right? How successful you are. When you go to an Asian family gathering, you're going to hear the aunties talk about how so-and-so's cousin, got a job at Google and is making seven figures and whatever, right? And then what are you doing here getting fat? You know what I'm talking about. In these conversations with family members, there's always an air of shame if someone is not pulling their weight. On top of that, as kids, our parents validate us for these external things that we do. When we grow up in an environment that validates what we do more than who we are, it's going to condition us to believe that the way that we receive love or any type of worth is through doing, is through achieving things, right? And so as adults, we're going to find ourselves striving for success, striving for achievement, to get that dopamine hit, to get that sense of love and belonging and validation from people outside, our families, our friends, society, whatnot. And for a moment, we're going to feel that high, we're going to be happy. But after some time, it's going to wear off and then we're left feeling empty again. The thing is, to cope with that emptiness, we try to strive for the next thing, the next best thing. We think if we just get this new car, this partner, this dream house, this job, whatever, we're going to be happy. But it actually perpetuates, that belief perpetuates the cycle that we're stuck in, right? Of not feeling good enough. So we achieve to get those extrinsic validations. And then that wears off because that dopamine hit wears off. And then we're left feeling empty again. And then we want to fill ourselves by achieving the next thing, and then so on and so forth. That ultimately leads us to burnout. The next thing I want to highlight is how our experiences growing up in an immigrant family can cause us to think in certain ways that may lead us to burnout. Many of our parents immigrated to the States because they wanted their children to have better opportunities. Growing up, we've seen just how much our parents sacrificed. We went through financial stressors, stress with being an immigrant, not knowing the language, having to navigate through a system that wasn't really set up for immigrants. And we were told that as long as we studied hard, right, their sacrifices would have paid off. Our success meant that their sacrifices weren't in vain. But that's a lot of damn pressure. Because to this day, even as adults, it's that constant looming pressure of, did I do enough? Did I do enough so that what my parents gave up was worth it? And if we feel like we don't ever do enough, we're going to constantly feel that guilt. I didn't do enough in comparison to what my parents sacrificed. So that's going to cause some of us to strive for more, to do more, to achieve more, to do things not because they want to, but out of a sense of duty and obligation, right? Because it all ties back to making our parents proud. This striving ultimately leads to that burnout. And again, we're in that similar cycle of guilt, trying to appease that guilt by doing more, and yet nothing ever feels enough. And then we feel guilty again. So we try to do more and blah, blah, blah. I wanted to highlight these things because we need to be aware of these tendencies that were ingrained in our upbringing, in our cultural ways of thinking. Not that they're necessarily bad. What we want to be conscious of is when we take it overboard and we get into these mind patterns and ways of doing things that may not be healthy or helpful to us. When we do things more from a sense of guilt, right, and feeling of not enough, that's going to cause us to burn out. And so knowing that these are some cultural tendencies that we fall into can help us better choose different ways. So next time, before you strive for the next thing, check yourself. Are you doing this from a place of feeling not enough? Are you doing this from a place of feeling guilt? Because more likely than not, when you do that, you're going to lead yourself to burning out. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I would also love to hear from you in the comments below. I'm going to be making more videos about Asian culture and mental health, family dynamics, my experience as an Asian American therapist, my own journey of healing, and other topics that I'm passionate about, such as people pleasing, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. And if you have any questions, please ask, because you never know. You might be the inspiration behind my next video.